Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're going to be looking at episode 3 of my submarine simulation series focusing on the submarine game, Fast Attack. In this mission, our objective is a little bit simpler, so we're going to have a much shorter video than we have lately. We've been averaging around 20-21 minutes per video so far in this series. This video is only going to be about 10-11 minutes, so it's a lot shorter. Like I said, it's a pretty simple mission, so I'm not going to be talking about as much. But in this mission, our objective is to find an Iranian command ship and destroy it. Basically, the Iranian Navy is laying mines in the Persian Gulf to interrupt the supply of oil. It's still in the 1980s, it's 1987, and our objective is to destroy that ship, make it look somewhat like an accident, and not get detected, and thus keep the shipping lanes open for traffic. Now, my main focus of discussion here in this video is going to be kind of the pros and cons of harpoons and torpedoes, because if you've seen the previous videos, you've noticed as a submarine commander you have somewhat of a choice between either using your Mark 48 ADCAPs or using your torpedoes to destroy enemy vessels. Now, there's two different reasons you might use a torpedo, or there's two different types of targets really that you would want to consider using either torpedoes or harpoons against. In general, you're going to use torpedoes against slow-moving large targets on the surface, so merchant ships like in the first battle, or against submarines. Harpoons are much more useful against smaller ships, like we saw in the second scenario, or faster ships. Even large ships can be more effectively attacked with harpoons if they're fast. So here we're looking at a merchant platform. It's a merchant ship. It kind of it's in the middle. It's kind of along that gray line where you might not be sure what you want to use. Now I've only got 4 harpoons, I've got 15 torpedoes, so I've definitely got a choice. You know, four missiles should be more than enough to destroy an enemy surface ship, but still, if I do run out, I've got torpedoes to fall back on. Now you can see there my sonar is picking up explosions, basically enemy vessels are attacking neutral merchants, so that kind of gives a little bit of an urgency to finding the enemy ship and destroying it. Now we've already found it, but we did find a secondary objective here. Our secondary objective was to plot the course and location of an enemy missile corvette, which we just did. So that's the first time I've attempted a secondary mission. A lot of times you're going to get secondary missions. Most of the time in the early scenarios it's to plot mines. Occasionally you'll get missions to detect enemy vessels, but in this case it was to detect an enemy vessel and plot mines. So we plotted an enemy vessel, and now our main objective that we have left is to go ahead and destroy this command ship, this mining ship. So as I was saying here, harpoons and torpedoes, there's really two different reasons you would use them. As I said, torpedoes would be used against submarines universally, and also against large, slow warships. Now this warship is kind of in the middle here. It's at 15 knots, so it's not slow by any means, but it's also not very fast. I mean, we could definitely hit it with a torpedo. Its range of 18,000 yards is also in torpedo range. Another reason you might use a harpoon, even on a slow-moving target, if it's a ways out. One big advantage that a harpoon gives a submarine is an incredible ability to hit an enemy target at long range. Now, while the specific ranges are often classified by the government, the American Mark 48 torpedo is widely regarded to have a range of at least 35,000 yards. Now, this enemy here at 18,000 yards is well inside that envelope here. You can see I'm kind of adjusting estimated course and range and speed here to try and get a better fix on it. As I said in the previous game, when you're in that fire control menu, your goal is to plot the enemy target so that the line of their course goes straight down the middle of that line. If it goes off to the right or the left, that means you don't have a very accurate fire control solution, which if you put a missile up in the air and your solution's wrong, it can be in the totally wrong spot, and it won't search, it won't find the enemy vessel. That may not seem like too big of a worry with a missile that you put in the air. You'd think its radar could pick up an enemy vessel, but really at long range, especially, that every small error is magnified the further out the target is. But as I said, the Mark 48 torpedo has an estimated range of about 35,000 yards. It's probably longer than that, but that comes out to about 17 nautical miles. The Harpoon ship-launched missile has a range of over 60 nautical miles. So that's another amazing example of a good reason you might want to use a Harpoon, is if the enemy's just too far out there for you to accurately be able to hit them with a torpedo, or efficiently, because you also need to consider speed. 15 knots at 4,000 yards is a slow, easy target, most likely. 15 knots at 30,000 yards, it might be an easier way to hit the target mathematically, because you don't have to worry about the torpedo catching up to the target, although at 15 knots you really don't need to worry about that because the torpedoes travel faster than that anyway. But might be less of a sharp geometric angle to hit it, but it's also, you know, if the enemy turns away when you're at long range, they might outrun the torpedo. So essentially Harpoons are better against faster targets and longer range targets. Torpedoes are really the only weapon of choice against submarines, but as I also said, slow-moving, medium to short-range targets are ideal for those. And keep in mind, those ranges that I'm giving you are estimates. The Harpoon range comes from globalsecurity.org, and the torpedo range comes from a couple of torpedo, not so reputable, but just torpedo websites that I couldn't really... It's hard to knock down on that because torpedoes are heavily classified, it seems, as far as their capabilities. But anyway, I've estimated a fire solution here on this vessel here. So I'm just double checking that. As you see, my target goes right down the middle. There's a little bit of variation there, so I'm going to kind of try and straighten things out. And did that there, entered that in. So I've got a pretty good fix on my Harpoon here. So I think I'm going to go ahead, like I said, I'm going to use a Harpoon. I could probably get it with a torpedo as well, but Harpoon's quicker. You know, if I need to get out of range, that's another benefit of a Harpoon, is it covers a great distance much quicker. So with a torpedo, you leave a wire connected to your submarine until it acquires, at which point you'll cut the wire. So it kind of is like having to stay in a fixed position, kind of like an aircraft needing to keep a laser-guided laser on its target as it waits for the laser-guided bomb to hit. Obviously, it makes you vulnerable. You can cut and run if you need to, but that may make the torpedo less accurate. Whereas with a missile, it's really fire and forget. You shoot the missile off, you don't worry what happens after that, and you can dive and duck away if you want, and the missile is on the enemy much quicker, you know, traveling at over 600 knots. It's much quicker on the enemy target, so they have much less time to react, whereas a torpedo, they've got a much greater time to react here. As you can see, the Harpoon is going in just seconds after we launched it. With a torpedo at that range, it might have taken 5-10 minutes before it acquired its target. More time for the target to change its bearing. The Harpoon's already in there and it hit its target. So like I said, when we get those cutscenes, that basically means it's going to be a decisive hit. So we shouldn't really have to worry. Now if I'm a real sub-commander after that hit, I'm probably going to go deep. Probably going to put some depth underneath my underneath my ship and get myself in a more safe position. So, looking earlier at the submarine's sonar range, basically right now what I'm doing is ducking underneath the layer, which I'll talk a little bit more about in more depth in some of the future videos here when we've got some more time. But it's a tactical move that's going to make you more difficult to detect for surface ships. And for any submarines above the layer. Anything below the layer will be easier to find you, but anything above it will have a harder time finding you. So you see, as we dive here beneath what I said was the layer, we're losing some targets. Like I said, I'll explain. Maybe in the next video I'll talk a little bit about the layer. But you can see there I broke up the enemy target here and destroyed it as we needed to. So that was the only thing we needed to do in this mission. Just destroy that one ship. We did plot the other ship as kind of a secondary here. And already the mission is complete. Already we are done with that particular objective. We've got that mission successfully accomplished, and at this point it's really just kind of a matter of turning it in. So I guess at this point we'll go ahead and we'll jump ahead a little bit and end the mission here. One quick thing I did want to touch on is you see my submarine surfacing here. This is after the third mission here, and it's surfacing alongside a submarine tender. every so many missions you are scheduled a rendezvous with a submarine tender, which will replenish your weapons supply as well as repair any damage you might have. So it's kind of, I know some people had asked if there's a dynamic campaign. There is not, but certain things do carry over from mission to mission. Weapons supplies do, and that's why you need those submarine tenders there. There you see I've completed 3 straight missions where I've completed all my objectives, and I was also awarded a Navy Achievement Award, so some kind of commendation that I was given here for the success that I've had. So those are different kind of ways of, there's a little bit of dynamism built into the game there with some of those features, but although there may be some changes, as far as what decorations you get, what rank you get, and when you get, how to manage your weapon supply mission to mission, because it does carry over mission to mission. For the most part, the battles are somewhat scripted here. But anyway, as I said, this is a little bit shorter of a video here, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this one short until next week. This is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching and signing out.